Welcome to the POMcast with Steve Willis, your independent, unbiased, and unbought source for Ole Miss athletics. Good morning, good morning, good morning. On this November 23rd, 2020, Egg Bowl week. At least we think it's going to be Egg Bowl week. We are going to need to wait and see. We're going to proceed like it's Egg Bowl week in this show. And then if it's not Egg Bowl week, we'll proceed Saturday or Tuesday on whoever we are playing. That's the way we're going to handle this. It looks like it could be a rainy Egg Bowl at this point. So if you're going to the game, if you're one of the few people that are going to the game, take precautions. Because 3 o'clock kickoff, it's about a 50% chance of rain at this point. And the high is not supposed to get above 60, so it could be pretty miserable out there sitting out in the elements. So be wary of that. Sorry to be the Debbie Downer on a Monday morning. Last week, the number of podcast listens shot way up. Because of the episode, I believe, how to follow recruiting for free. So I think we're going to, whenever we go live, we're going to do a segment on basically how to do that. Some sort of a package of how to follow recruiting for free. And we're just going to probably play that package twice a year, as long as it's relevant. But that seems to be the plan, because obviously that struck a chord with you guys and we appreciate it. Now, if you want to follow us, you can hit us up on Twitter at the Stephen Willis or at Ole Positively. You can hit us up on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast, POMcast. Hit us up on YouTube at positivelyolemiss. Subscribe, hit the bell. That way you'll know when we're streaming in the future and you won't be left out in the cold. And follow us on Twitch at positivelyolemiss, all one word. If audio is more of your thing right now, and I understand that since this is an audio and video sources, you can catch us on Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and Pandora. We're also in a bunch of smaller podcatchers, but if we name them, we would be here all day. So I'm Stephen Willis. Again, this is Egg Bowl week, and thank you for listening to the POMcast on the Positively Ole Miss Network. And we're going to get into the game a little bit. We're going to get into this weekend a little bit, but first, a little bit of house cleaning is there will be no show Thursday and Friday because I am moving to the palatial Central Florida studios. So while we're moving around, there will be no podcast because there's no internet right now. That won't be slated to be hooked up until Saturday morning. So that's the reason I say after Wednesday morning, there'll probably be no around the SEC this week either. So be prepared for that. We need to be flexible, but also this is going to eventually be very cool for you. So realize there's no show on Thursday. There's no show on Friday. But we'll be back Monday with bells on, talking about LSU or whoever we're playing. So what to expect from Mississippi State will be Wednesday instead of Friday. That way you can play it when you're driving up there, and it can kind of hold that same position in your game day routine or your home gating routine, however you want to do it. So that has happened. We're going down there, and the next step is getting everything ready for video. I mean, pretty soon we're going to order the equipment and get everything good to go. for the radio in the palatial Central Florida studios. So is probably, honestly, probably well ahead of schedule. I still want to set an April-ish time frame, just because we can take our time and get it right. Because that's the important thing, is getting this right. Because this is going to be unlike anything that anybody is doing in college football right now. It's a TV show. It might be on digital platforms, but it's a TV show. Complete with segments like Anatomy of a Touchdown, 3 for the Weekend, all that stuff. Just going to go in. So that's the way that's probably going to work. Now, we'll probably do Anatomy of a Touchdown just to show you what it looks like once we start in April, going back to this year. We've got some great candidates too. The third touchdown against Vanderbilt, where Elijah Moore won on the double move. Just the formation work of getting Elijah Moore and the defender like 15 to 20 yards away from the nearest help defender was impressive enough. The clipboard, yeah, we got to do the clipboard. But that's just how this is going to go. 3 for the Weekend. We're going to talk about what Ole Miss is basically putting out for the game day, because we're going to hopefully deal with a real game day next year. So little things like these are the parking lots. This is what we're expecting. The three big stories going into the weekend that can be team related, it can be game related, it can be logistics related. So it's going to be pretty good. Like, we're streaming weekdays at 10 o'clock. That shouldn't change. And we're doing it in a TV show format as it is. Our segments are about what you would expect them to be. So this is going to be really cool. It really is. And is going to be different and unlike anything that has ever been done before. Because I have the time to do it. I have the resources to do it. And I'm not in it to try to make a buck. Who cares? Anyway, come back. Segment 2, Positively Ole Miss, POMcast, Stephen Willis. Stick around.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen.
As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at activeforlife.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
All right, POMcast, Stephen Willis, thank you very much for listening right here on the Positively Ole Miss Network. I just want to talk about it. It looks like it's going to rain. Saturday, 3 o'clock. That's somewhere in between day and night, this game. And the temperature spread between those two is 58 to 45. The rain is going to increase as it goes on. And the wind is basically going to change directions as well. So be careful. Do what you need to do to stay warm. But it could be a wet one Saturday for this Egg Bowl, for which I'm kind of excited to see because with Ole Miss and Mississippi State, you're always kind of excited to see it. And the current leaders, believe it or not, is KJ Costello at quarterback. That's because he threw for, I think, 7 trillion yards against LSU. He's also thrown just about as many pick sixes as touchdowns. Matt Corral is at 23-59, 22 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He's had a good year. He's had a really good year. The leading rusher for Mississippi State is Jaquavius Marks at 147 yards and a touchdown on 41 carries. Jerry and Ely is the leader for Ole Miss. 117 carries, 608 yards, and 8 touchdowns. The leading receiver for Mississippi State is Osiris Mitchell. He has 33 receptions, 389 yards, and 3 touchdowns. The leader for Ole Miss is Elijah Moore, who has 74 receptions, 1,054 yards, and 8 touchdowns. The ESPN FPI matchup predictor gives Ole Miss a 68.3 chance to win this game. Mississippi State 31.7. What that means is if this game was played 100 times, Ole Miss should win 68. Mississippi State should win the rest. That's the way that works. It's all probability. It's not a predictive measure necessarily. In total yards, Ole Miss this season through 7 games is averaging 564 yards a game. That'd be well enough to set the school record. And Mississippi State during this time is gaining 329 yards. They're passing for 307. They're rushing for an average of 21 yards per game. Ole Miss is throwing for 352 and rushing for 212. Now, defensively, it's about the same number on both of them. So, Ole Miss is on a 2-game winning streak. They beat Vanderbilt 54-21 in Nashville and South Carolina 59-42 in Oxford. The last couple of games for Mississippi State, they beat Vanderbilt at home 24-17. And lost to Georgia on the road 31-24. If we look at the pick center on ESPN GameCast, basically through team rankings, Ole Miss should win 37-27. On Number Fire, Ole Miss should win 38-25. The spread consensus on there is 10 points. So, that's the baseline of Mississippi State. We've just basically read over the GameCast on ESPN. But they do a good job of putting all the stats and all the relevant information in one place. Now, what will Mississippi State do? Well, you saw a little bit of that against Georgia. You drop 8, keep everything in front of you. If they're patient enough to matriculate the ball down the field, then that'll be available. They want you to get in man coverage because then they're crossers and things like that. Their big plays come on in man coverage. So you need to avoid doing that. But basically, you need to follow the Arkansas idea. And if we're going to be real, what Ole Miss should do is give a drop 8 look, but send 4. You don't know which 4 is going to come. It could be Sam Williams. It could be the other linebacker. It could be a corner fire, but you're sending 4. And basically what that will do is force the quarterback to speed up even more. Because what we saw against Georgia, now they're not very good at doing it, but there was a comfort level with doing it against a drop 8 defense. If they know what you're going to do, they get comfortable. Now, they want you to go in man coverage because, like I said, with crossers and things like that, they can do a lot of damage there. So what I would do if I was Ole Miss was basically drop 7. And a 4th person is blitzing. Make them find the hole. If you know what I mean. Make them know where the blitzer is coming from. That's what I would do. And because the drop 8 could be a very, very good thing, but you need to win on the defensive front for that to be really successful. They have to play really hard. And to do that, we're probably going to have to send somebody from a weird angle because we're not very good on the D-line. That's kind of the reality. I do not think, even with our defense this year, Mississippi State can score with us. So it's going to, I think the game is going to look a lot like the Ole Miss South Carolina game. And as long as we don't turn the ball over, but as every possession, they're hyper aggressive, which means there's going to be a bunch of screens. There's going to be different things to get people involved. And once the aggression is slowed down, which Georgia should be ashamed of themselves because what they did is absolutely criminal, not running tempo against 49 scholarship athletes. They did not run tempo at all. They slowed it down and just let State play the slow, methodical tempo. There's a problem in Georgia right now. Whether people don't want to admit it or not, there's a problem. JT Daniels, if it wasn't for him, they'd have probably gotten beat Saturday night. JT Daniels saved them. Now, it's his first game in almost a year or over a year, but yeah, it was pretty nice. Him taking the vertical shots, because this is another thing. Defenses want you to play in that like 10 to 15 yard area in front of the safeties. I mean, that's the way all defenses want you to play. If those safeties can go from 15 to 12 to 10 yards and not have to worry about behind them, you're in trouble. You're in a lot of trouble. Because that's what the defense is designed to do. The way you can do that is to go the other way. The safeties start at 12 yards. Now all of a sudden they drop into 15 to 20 and they can't come up and support the run. And that creates a whole lot of problems. That's the way this works. So the vertical shots that Georgia was getting is because you're able to get behind the safeties. Because they were so fixated on the run. And they just picked the run to take away. They're like, you can have the pass, beat us by the pass. And they did. JT Daniels threw for 400 yards. I mean, we're in a situation, and think about this. This is ridiculous. Matt Corral has 23.59 this year, 2,359 yards. By my Mississippi-educated math, that's a little bit over like 641 yards. There's 3 games left, plus the bowl game. So he averages 220 for his last games. He hits 3,000 yards this season. There's a chance. Let's say he averages 330, or let's say 350. Let's add that up. That's 1,400 yards. He's upwards of 3,800 yards in a shortened season. That's impressive. And he was real quick, Matt Corral, on his interview with Tim Tebow this weekend to talk about not being average, and specifically a day on April 9th that he remembers that was important for him making the next step. And that he said he didn't want last year to happen again. That's maturity. That is growing up. And that is probably the most important step he has made since he's been at Ole Miss. When we come back, we're going to go over this week's betting lines right here on POMcast. I'm Steve Willis. Thanks for listening.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
POMcast, Steve Willis, right here on Positively Ole Miss. Thank you very much for listening. We're having a lot of fun, as you can probably hear. We like doing this. We love doing this. We like providing this service, and the fact that we can do it just makes us even happier. Let's go over lines for this week. Now, this is all like, I don't want to say take it with a grain of salt, but if everything remains, this is what it's going to look like. If it changes, as things are so apt to do recently, it changes. Be flexible is the best advice I can give. Kentucky at Florida. Florida is favored by 22 points. Florida struggled at Vanderbilt, and I am currently on a train of taking Vanderbilt. I've taken them 3 straight weeks, and they've covered 3 straight weeks, starting with Mississippi State. And that is because since they're Vanderbilt, people bet against them thinking it's free money. The preconceived notion. So Mississippi State was favored by 19 points over Vanderbilt. Mississippi State has trouble scoring 19 points. So if Vanderbilt scores once, it's a cover. So So Florida ran into that this week. They were favored by 31 points. There's no way they were going to beat Vanderbilt by 31 points. And, I'm a member of the Ken Seals Vanderbilt fan club and think he's going to be absolute hell in 3 years. But Florida wasn't going to do that. Now, this is a little bit different situation because you do that against Vanderbilt because they're designed to put up points. Florida's favored by 22 at home against Kentucky. Kentucky is designed to play slow. And they tried that against Alabama, played well as they could for a quarter and a half, and they were down 21-6 or 21-3. I think a similar type scoreline is going to emerge here. Arkansas at Missouri. Missouri favored by 1.5. This border war should be a fun game. Missouri and Arkansas, new coaches that are kind of hyped up and giving hope to the fan base. It's basically nearly a pick 'em line. It should be very interesting to see. The largest line of the weekend is this next game. Alabama is favored by 24 over Auburn. Honestly, when it comes to Alabama, I just lay the points at this point, no matter who they're playing. But, we'll see. Mississippi State at Ole Miss. Ole Miss favored by 11. This is according to BetOnline/AG. 11 points. LSU at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is favored by 12.5 points. Georgia's favored by 20 points at South Carolina. There's heavy quitting potential for the Gamecocks, and they lost their coach. And Tennessee favored by 10 at Vanderbilt. This is the game that is the most interesting game of the weekend to me because of what I just told you about starting this segment. Is this the correction, or are they giving Tennessee too many points? And I think they're giving Tennessee too many points. Tennessee right now is, 2-5? 2-6? I think 2-5. And I don't know. Their quarterback gets benched about every other game. I just don't know on this one. I'm probably going to go with Vanderbilt to cover again to make it 4 straight weeks. Now, Vanderbilt's probably not going to win the game, but this is one of those games that could end up like the Kentucky game a couple weeks ago where Kentucky was favored by nearly 20 points. And the final score in it was 34-31. In other words, there's a correction that is happening with Vanderbilt right now because you can't understand. They're actually playing quite well. The problem is they're a bunch of true freshmen. And they're not good enough to win games. But when dealing with preconceived notions of people, you can win that way. I don't think people are watching enough Vandy right now. I don't think they're betting on enough Vandy. They're just projecting Vandy out like this could be bad. But Vandy is actually probably, they're probably the worst team in the SEC, but they'd be fighting with Mississippi State and even LSU at this point. So, that's the lines for this weekend. If they change, we'll change them. We're pretty easygoing with that. I'm Stephen Willis. This is the POMcast. See you tomorrow. Talk to you tomorrow.